Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Wake and Take. It's your boy Jason, and we've got some football to talk about today. Today is Tuesday, so you already know we're doing a little bit of waiver wire action. We're going through, looking at the players available in 75% or more of Yahoo leagues as a little bit of a as a test. You know, if they're available in that many Yahoo leagues, they're probably available in some sleeper leagues and all that stuff as well. The availability just varies from platform to platform. So I just like to use Yahoo as a kind of standard, but we're going deep with it. As always, we've got 30 or more players to look out for on your waivers this week. We'll be talking those players. So go ahead, take out your coffee, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. So, it's Waiver Wire Tuesday. Good morning to everyone. Welcome in Donald, Thomas, Alex, Semperfi, Lucas, Thomas, Jason, Best Ball, Applied Literature, Ryan, and Bach. Great to see you all this morning. We've got a lot of people to talk about today, as always, right? It's time to make moves. You know, tomorrow we'll have the market watch, so we'll be talking trades to make. Today, we're just, talking the players to look out for on your waiver wire as we do. So again, I have done players available in 75% or more of Yahoo leagues. I've got like 30 something players to talk about. No quarterbacks. So I will just kind of go ahead and say, I mean, if you're in super flex, go ahead and start stashing those quarterbacks, right? Like Drake May, if he's for some reason available, it's a seasonal super flex league, like get him. He's probably going to start at some point. Roster Michael Penix. Like get these backup quarterbacks, Stetson Bennett. You know what I mean? Like just get them on your roster just in case. Quarterback injuries happen all the time, right? So just go ahead and start getting those backups. But for the most part, this is going to be the skill position players that you can look out for. You kind of know how to navigate quarterback at this point in your fantasy football career. I'm sure, like a single quarterback, you've got your guy, or there's someone on the waivers that should be rostered. So we don't have to talk too much about that. We do have to talk about the skill position players, though. So like I said, I've got 30-something players to look out for. I think it's 33. Last week we did 50, so we've slimmed it down. We're back to 30-something. So let's get right on into it. We will go from top to bottom. So player least available to most available. So if you're in some deeper leagues, make sure you stick around. Now, Darnell Mooney. This is, I'm getting cute with it, right? I said 75% or more. He's available in 74% of leagues. He's only rostered in 26% of leagues. And I just find that ridiculous. This was a player I thought most people were drafting anyway, but apparently he has to be our priority waiver wire ad. Darnell Mooney, guys, has 15 targets over the last 2 weeks, has that touchdown, has over 150 receiving yards. He's been playing really, really well. He's getting open. Him and Kirk Cousins clearly have an established connection together. And so if Darnell Mooney is for some reason available in your league, get him, right? Go ahead and get Darnell Mooney on your roster. Spend up on Fab, too. I mean, he's worth at least 10% of Fab, this guy, at this point. Last week we talked about adding him. We've talked about drafting him. This week, if he's still out there, I mean, just put that money. Just get that money. Get Darnell Mooney on your roster because Darnell Mooney to the moon. You know what I mean? Like, he's playing super well, getting the targets, getting the usage. The offense looks pretty fun. Get Darnell Mooney on your team. 8 targets, 8 receptions, 66 yards against the Chiefs. 7 targets, 3 receptions, 88 yards, and a touchdown against the Eagles. We're going to see more. We're going to see some more from Darnell Mooney, so just make sure he's on your roster. He should not be available in a single league, really. I'm honestly shocked he's this available. Next, we have Josh Downs, who finally returned. Josh Downs available in 75% of leagues, rostered in 25% of Yahoo leagues right now. He needs to be rostered as well. This is a player we've been talking about multiple times on this waiver wire show now. He's going to be a target from Anthony Richardson. In fact, probably going to be one of his main targets, right? He just comes out and gets 5 targets in his first game back, only brings in 3 of them for 22 yards. And that's probably how it's going to be. Sometimes they'll be touchdowns. Sometimes it'll be more like that. You're never really going to want to start Josh Downs, I don't think, as we're kind of watching as we're watching with Michael Pittman and Anthony Richardson. It's just hard to trust these wide receivers with Anthony Richardson on a given week. But like we've talked about in Josh Downs' case, him and Anthony Richardson, they were both rookies together, and they established a really, really good connection last year in training camp, in rookie OTAs and all that stuff. There was reports of them playing catch in the hotel parking lot. I do think that translates, and seeing 5 targets already in his first week back gives me enough of a confidence to say that this guy needs to be rostered. Go ahead and get Josh Downs on your team if he's out there. I kind of want to, I might just talk wide receivers. I might just do this a little bit differently and just maybe go position by position. Because I feel like I've got some running backs coming up. I've got some tight ends coming up, but I feel like they can kind of all be lumped together. So, whatever. We'll just go player by player. It doesn't really matter. Tyler Algier available in 76% of leagues. This is just a handcuff, right? We're seeing him get a decent amount of usage as well in Atlanta, but not enough to warrant starting. However, we're now seeing 7 carries for 32 yards against the Chiefs, 9 carries and a catch against the Eagles, only 3 carries against the Steelers, but that was week 1. So basically 17 touches over the last 2 weeks in this offense. That's nothing to scoff at. And if anything happens to Bijan Robinson, he would be a big part of this Falcons offense. You should definitely be rostering Algier, especially if you have Bijan Robinson. But anyway, too, you should just get him. We've seen him produce on the NFL field as a starter before. He looks pretty good. I mean, he's the reason we didn't pick up the 4th down against the Chiefs in that game. He should have, picked up a block and not let Bijan get tackled there. But still, Tyler Algier, a good running back, would score some fantasy points if anything happens to Bijan. Knock on wood. Hopefully that doesn't happen. But this is fantasy football, right? You got to have your handcuffs. Tyler Algier is one of them. Zack Herz, available in 77% of leagues, is rostered in 23%. And this is just, I'm going to be quick. In fact, all the tight ends kind of have the same exact logic, right? You need tight ends. This is a shit position this year. And just to have a few tight ends on your roster to kind of play the matchups is a great idea. So Zack Herz is one of those. He is one of Jaden Daniels' favorite targets. He got 5 targets last night. Brought in 5 of them for 38 yards. The week before, 4 targets, 4 receptions, 62 yards, 4 targets in week 1 as well. That's a lot of targets on a week-to-week basis for a tight end. So if he's available in your league, just roster him, get him on your team. There will be matchups, right, where it's all right, this is the Zack Herz week, more than likely. So if he's out there, get him on your team. Mike Williams, available in 76% of leagues as well. Mike Williams missed week 1 due to injury, so in week 2 didn't get much involvement, only 1 target. But against the Patriots, he had 4 targets, brought in 3 of them for 34 yards. Mike Williams is the exact boomer bust wide receiver that we hate to roster, to be completely honest with you. However, there will be opportunities to start a Mike Williams, right? Like say against the Bills, right? Where you're just all right, I'll just throw a boomer bust guy into my lineup. You might as well. Mike Williams has done it before throughout his career. He is still, a really good wide receiver when healthy. That's just kind of the thing. He's never healthy. But if he is available, I don't see why you wouldn't take a shot on him. The Jets looked really good last week against the Patriots. And, it's against the Patriots, but they had looked good the first couple weeks before. So it is possible this Jets offense is trending in the right direction. And Mike Williams could have a couple ceiling games throughout this season. So if you have him available and you have the roster space, I don't see why you wouldn't at least try to add him. I wouldn't throw much fab at Mike Williams. This is a guy that I would just try to get for less than 5%, throw a couple bucks his way and just see what happens. Because really, you're never going to start him too much. There will be some opportunities, maybe if injuries fall his way, or if your team gets ravaged by injuries and you need someone, he's going to be boomer bust. And I like having some boomer bust guys on my roster here and there just in case. So if he is available, get him, but don't throw much fab his way. Wan'Dale Robinson, available in 80% of leagues still. I'm really surprised that this player is so available. I mean, he has been performing very consistently throughout this season. He's had almost 10 points in 3 straight games. Week 1, 12 targets, brought in 6 of them for 44 yards. Last week, he had 2 receptions for 18 yards and a touchdown. And this week, he had 8 targets, brought in 7 of them for 61 yards. And with Malik Neighbors taking away so much coverage, Wan'Dale Robinson keeps getting these targets. Now, it's not a great ADOT or anything like that, not high-value touches, but he's getting them. And in PPR leagues, I don't see why you wouldn't be rostering Wan'Dale. He's flex-worthy in a lot of spots. I mean, this offense is playing from behind a lot. He's getting targets. He has 24 targets over 3 weeks. That's a lot of targets. That's a lot of targets over 3 weeks. So if he's available still somehow, this is a player we've talked about every single week now, and I think his rostership's gone down. I feel like his rostership has gone down every single week, but he's just producing and producing and producing again. So if Wan'Dale Robinson is available, get him, especially in a dynasty league. If you can pick him up, he's young. And I mean, I do think that when Daniel Jones is gone, even if he's playing fine right now, like next year they bring in a real quarterback, like, you know, it could be wheels up for this whole offense. So Wan'Dale Robinson, very intriguing. I'm surprised he's as available as he is. I would even try to trade for him in dynasty leagues if you can get him pretty cheap. That's a lot of targets. And again, it's not high ADOT or anything like that. But what do we call Wan'Dale Robinson? What do we call him on this show, guys? He's Zay Flowers light. He is Zay Flowers light. If you want Zay Flowers, just get Wan'Dale Robinson, right? Like, this is the same exact usage, just on a much worse offense, you know? But he's getting a ton of targets being utilized. So Wan'Dale Robinson, get him on your team. Next, we have Antonio Gibson. Antonio Gibson is available in 82% of leagues, and this is just another one of those handcuff situations. Ramondre Stevenson didn't have a good week last week, and neither really did Antonio Gibson, but this is now back-to-back weeks where he's at least been mildly productive. Last week against the Jets, 5 carries for 29 yards, also 3 receptions for 8 yards, so he got you there in PPR. But then in week 2 against the Seahawks, he had 11 carries for 96 yards on top of his reception. He's clearly being utilized as a little bit of a change of pace back behind Ramondre, which is fine. But then if anything happens to Ramondre, we've seen the athleticism from Antonio Gibson. He could be pretty huge with a lot of volume. So Antonio Gibson is someone we need to start rostering before it's too late. Get him on your team. Tank Bigsby, I'm less sure about, but still, we just have to roster handcuffs. This is fantasy football. Tank Bigsby available in 83% of leagues. And in week 1, before his shoulder injury, he had 12 carries for 73 yards, out-touched Travis Etienne. And the last 2 weeks, he's just been kind of playing through a shoulder injury, not getting much opportunity. So that's kind of led to him. Like, he only had 2 carries against the Bills last night. But his shoulder will probably heal up and he'll start to get 5 or 6 carries again. And then if anything happens to Etienne, it's Tank Bigsby, right? Like, this is a player that we were very, very high on after the week 1 waiver wire run. He had a lot of usage and looked good with it. Now he just has a shoulder injury, which has taken him off the field. But when he comes back and healthy, he will get a little bit more usage. And if anything happens to Etienne, he'll get a ton of usage. This is just a handcuff running back you have to roster. Tank Bigsby. Adonai Mitchell. Again, it's tough to want to roster Colts wide receivers, so I would reserve this one for deeper leagues. I know he's rostered in 17% of leagues. He should honestly probably be rostered in a little bit of less. But if you're in a deeper league and Adonai Mitchell is out there, and maybe even a medium league, I think it's worth it because we saw in week 1, 5 targets, week 2, 4 targets, and this week only 1 target. But I do think, you know, whether it be an Alec Pierce injury, and look, Josh Downs was back, so that's why he had less targets. But I do still think that Adonai Mitchell was drafted to replace Alec Pierce. I think that, right? The same exact athletic profile. Now, of course, Alec Pierce performed really well and has been performing really well, so it might not happen. But I do think he's a fine stash because if anything happens to Alec Pierce, he will be the new deep threat in Indianapolis, and Alec Pierce continuously produces. I think Adonai Mitchell will as well. He has a great athletic profile. I like his fit in Indianapolis. Again, this is more for deeper leagues and more of a stash, but Adonai Mitchell, I do think, needs to be rostered. Cade Otton, next, 16% rostership on Yahoo. And it has been quiet going, but we finally saw a good Cade Otton game. 8 targets in this one. Brings in 7 of them for 47 yards. And that's just the type of usage we should expect from Cade Otton, or were expecting. Maybe not 8 targets, but definitely more than 2. The 2 targets he had seen in the first 2 games of the season. I hope that this is kind of just a reminder to the Buccaneers that they should be utilizing him a little bit more. If he can be like Zack Herz, you know, get the 4 or 5 targets a game, it would be awesome, right? Like, it is a good Buccaneers offense. So if Cade Otton was dropped because of the first 2 weeks, he definitely needs to be rostered still. We'll talk about throughout the season if he needs to be started or anything like that, but he definitely still needs to be rostered. And I mean, at the tight end position, it's just so hard to get production. So if he's out there, get him. He has this potential. He's been productive throughout his career, and it's a good enough offense. So Cade Otton, I don't think he should be available. I think he should be rostered. Get him on your team if he's out there. And Tyler Conklin as well. Same thing. Barely any usage the first 2 weeks, but finally gets unlocked this week. 5 receptions for 93 yards. I just hope this is a little bit of a coming to Jesus moment for the Jets. You know, they finally showed some life this week, and it's because they got everyone involved. And so I hope that they continue to do that. Tyler Conklin was a great target at the end of drafts for the tight end position. He's going to have weeks like this, right? Like, Aaron Rodgers likes his tight end. Tyler Conklin's been productive throughout his career, and especially on the Jets. If he can, again, just after this, just get the 4 targets a game, That's all we're hoping for. The 2 that he saw the first 2 weeks, very concerning, but 6 this week brings in 5 for 93. That's what you want to see. So hopefully that this kind of reminds the Jets the utilization that Tyler Conklin can bring, and they start to lean on him a bit more. Get him those 4 targets, 5 targets, just to see what he could do with it. Score those touchdowns. Again, tight ends just need to be rostered, especially the ones that are starting and getting this type of usage. Get Tyler Conklin on your team. Here comes some more handcuffs. Jaylen Wright, rostered in 14% of leagues. Should be rostered in more. His usage last week, not very good, but that's just because, the Dolphins offense was bad. But I do think that it'll trend up. And again, this is just a handcuff play. Jaylen Wright is very, very athletic, has some good size on the Dolphins offense, where if things start to trend the right direction, we should see some explosiveness. If Jaylen Wright is available, you need to be rostering him. Averaged 8 yards a carry this week, even if he only had 2 touches. Again, just very explosive back, runs a sub 4.4, has good size, explosive, right? Just exactly what the Dolphins want in the running back room, but he has the size that the other running backs don't, so he should have some of that durability. If anything happens to Achane again, knocking on wood, we don't want that to happen, but Jaylen Wright would definitely step in and be pretty good. And we're seeing him start to get utilized a decent bit as well while Raheem Mostert is out. Not a ton. Again, only 5 carries against the Bills, only 2 against the Seahawks, but it was just kind of a lost game anyway, and really both of these at that point. So I do think as they kind of find their identity, maybe if Tua returns, Jaylen Wright will get utilized a bit more. And then again, if an injury falls his way, he should be huge. Justice Hill. This is another player we've talked about every week, and his rostership keeps going down. Justice Hill is now only owned in 13% of leagues, but consistently being used in Baltimore, not only as a pass catcher, but as a runner. This week, 5 carries, 33 yards, and 2 receptions. Last week, 4 carries and 2 receptions. Week 1, 6 receptions, right? He just keeps getting utilized. He needs to be rostered. And he's like a handcuff plus. If anything happens to Derrick Henry again, he should get leaned on a bit. Like maybe they'll bring in Keaton Mitchell as well, as he's scheduled to return soon. But still, Justice Hill as a pass catcher is pretty good, and he's getting utilization as well. And it's a good offense. You want Justice Hill if he's available. Not a lot of fab. I like, kind of rostering a Jaylen Wright, a Ray Davis, a Tyler Algier a bit more than a Justice Hill. But still, Justice Hill needs to be rostered because he's scoring points even while Derrick Henry is out there. So get Justice Hill on your team. Ray Davis is next. He just scored his first NFL touchdown. It did kind of come in garbage time. I mean, the Bills ran away with this game, but still 7 carries, 22 yards, and a touchdown. Got a reception. He's had a reception in 3 straight weeks. Last week, he had 9 carries. He's being utilized. And we've seen this from Buffalo before, where they like to have a running back behind James Cook. Right now, it's kind of been Ty Johnson, but Ray Davis is going to take that over at some point. And then again, just with running backs, just got to knock on the wood. We don't want it to happen. But if anything happens to James Cook, Ray Davis will be huge, huge, huge. He will be massive. He's got really, really good athleticism, very productive at the SEC, led all running backs in receiving touchdowns at the college level last year. So if Ray Davis is available, you need to get him. He's a handcuff plus right now, and should be rostered in a lot more leagues than he is. I'm honestly shocked, especially if you own James Cook, you need to have Ray Davis. But even if you don't, there's some upside there. I like Ray Davis a lot season long. Next, we have Jalen Nailor. This is another player where I don't want you really throwing a lot of fab at him, but he is available in a lot of leagues. And I mean, he should just be rostered. I mean, he scored a touchdown in 3 straight weeks now, 4 targets in back-to-back weeks. Him and Sam Darnold clearly have a little bit of a connection going. A lot of this is coming, of course, with Jordan Addison being out, but still, I think he'll have a spot even when Jordan Addison returns. And you're not ever really going to want to start him more than likely, but still, he should be rostered. And that's why I just say don't throw a lot of fab at him, but this is what we like to call keep your league honest fab. You've still got to throw like 5% at him and hope someone outbids you. Or you just get him for cheap and just see what happens. But Sam Darnold's playing really well. The Vikings offense looks good. And Jalen Nailor has 3 touchdowns on the year, right? So get him if he's available. Good athleticism, getting the usage, being productive. Get him on your team. Next is more of a stash, but it's Jalen Polk. 11% rostership right now. He scored his first touchdown against the Seahawks last week. He's not really being utilized. A target, 3 targets, 2 targets. It's not a lot, but as we're seeing from the Patriots, I do think that Drake May is going to come in at some point this season. And I think when that happens, it's kind of just going to be wheels up for the rest of the Patriots offense, at least the pass catchers. I think that they'll kind of change their identity from a dink and dunk offense to just a little bit of a let's have some fun with it and just see what happens type of offense, because that's what Drake May brings. Jaylen Polk, I don't know, has much alpha potential this season, but we could see a really good second half from him, more than likely. So if Jaylen Polk is out there, get him on your team. Don't throw a lot of fab. I don't think you have to. You should be able to get this guy for like $1 or $2, but still, I think he needs to be rostered. Get it. Jamie is asking, how much fab should I put in for Hopkins or McConkey? If either of those players are available, that's 100% fab bid, no questions asked. Next, we have Xavier Legette. With Adam Thielen picking up this hamstring injury, somebody has to step up in Carolina. And we saw the Carolina Panthers, week 1 especially, utilize Xavier Legette. 7 targets in week 1, 4 receptions for 35 yards, and this week only 3 targets with Andy Dalton. But Andy Dalton brought this Panthers offense to light. And again, Adam Thielen's going to miss some time, so Xavier Legette should get a little bit more opportunity. He was their first player drafted this year. They have a lot of hope for him. Not a lot of athleticism. I'm not going to lie. He's not a great separator, but he should be good. Right? Like, he should get a decent amount of volume. The Panthers offense looks good. They're throwing the ball around. They're spreading it around. I mean, Andy Dalton's chucking it. Xavier Legette in Adam Thielen's absence should be good, and hopefully he can earn himself even more opportunity when Adam Thielen returns. Get Xavier Legette on your roster right now. This is one where I would bid up a tiny bit. I would throw like an 11% to 12%, and just see what happens. You're probably not going to want to start him anytime soon, but you might this week, right? With Adam Thielen out. So I don't know. Xavier Legette, I think, needs to be rostered, and I don't mind bidding a little bit on him. Man, Shaka Zula says they are dropping Waddle and Swift in their leagues. Is that overreacting? Yes, that is a huge overreaction unless you're in a shallow league. Those are not players you drop yet. Next, Michael Wilson, 9% rostership, which kind of makes sense. He's been dropped in a lot of leagues. Not very much usage the first 2 weeks of the season, but in this game gets 8 receptions off of 9 targets for 64 yards. Trey McBride picks up a concussion, so he might miss a game. Michael Wilson needs to be rostered. He's the wide receiver 2 on this offense. The Cardinals offense is clicking. Again, you're probably not going to know when to start Michael Wilson unless like a Marvin Harrison or a Trey McBride gets hurt or whatever. But still, he's a young wide receiver on a good offense in the wide receiver 2 role, has 9 target potential. That's something to be worth rostering. Get him on your team if he's out there. Throw $5-6 his way. 50-60 if you're in 1,000, just get him on your team. See what happens, like Michael Wilson, he had a really good rookie season, still on a good Cardinals offense, still being utilized, not getting a lot of coverage as well with Trey McBride, Marvin Harrison taking a lot away. If he's going to be able to get 9 targets from Kyler Murray, I want that player. So Michael Wilson needs to be rostered. Get him on your team. Demario Douglas, 7% rostership right now, needs to be rostered. Again, probably more so than Jaylen Polk. He just had 9 targets, 7 receptions for 69 yards. And a lot of those targets came from Drake May. So if my reasoning to get Jaylen Polk is that Drake May is going to come in at some point and kind of rise the tide of all these Patriots receivers, then Demario Douglas definitely, as he looks to be Drake May's favorite target right now. With that being the case, you need to get Demario Douglas. He had another player with a great rookie season that just hasn't been utilized a ton, so he's available. But Demario Douglas should not be available. In fact, he should be the most rostered Patriots wide receiver right now. So definitely get him on your team. This is another player I don't mind bidding a little bit for. I think you're going to be able to start him towards the end of the year especially, and you need to get Demario Douglas on your team if you can get him. Next is a twofer. The Packers backup running backs, Marshawn Lloyd, 7% rostership, Emanuel Wilson, 3% rostership. Both need to be rostered. Josh Jacobs is getting a ton of usage, and that's just not sustainable. Marshawn Lloyd is, of course, on IR with a hamstring injury right now, so you could probably get him just for $1. But Emanuel Wilson, he just had 12 carries, 2 receptions in a game that Josh Jacobs played in. That is very concerning for Josh Jacobs managers. And he looked good, too. So Emanuel Wilson needs to be rostered. I don't really want to bid up for either of them because Marshawn Lloyd is the one I want the most, and I don't think you have to bid up for a player like Marshawn Lloyd right now. And I think a lot of people might be overbidding for Emanuel Wilson. But still, you need to get him. Again, the type of volume that Josh Jacobs is getting right now is not sustainable. And so you need to have his backups just in case, because Jordan Love's going to return at some point. This Packers offense will be the Packers offense. So Emanuel Wilson, he's looking pretty good. 2 receptions for 35 yards and a touchdown, 12 carries for 50 yards. Really, really good game for him. If you can get Emanuel Wilson in your leagues, definitely get him. If you can get Marshawn Lloyd in your leagues, definitely get him. These are 2 players that need to be rostered right now. And yeah. Next, we have Jordan Whittington. Again, this is the only Rams wide receiver I really want to take shots on. Because Tutu Atwell, Demarcus Robinson, we know who those players are. Tyler Johnson, we know who those players are. We don't quite know who Jordan Whittington is yet, and it has been quiet, so you should be able to get him for cheap. But still, if you're going to take a shot on a Rams wide receiver, it's got to be the one with juice, the rookie with unknown upside. You've just got to take a shot on him in case he starts to get utilized more, which has been the case. No targets in week 1, 2 targets in week 2, 3 targets in week 3. It is trending up, getting more yards every week, getting more targets every week. I think at some point he's going to be utilized a bit more like we saw in the preseason, and that was a lot of usage, and he looked damn good with it too. So Jordan Whittington, I still think we need to be rostering him. I don't mind bidding for him a little bit too. Like if you've got to throw a little bit more than you're comfortable with, do it. I do think that this is the guy with the season-long upside on the Rams. If you're looking for, a starter, then I guess you just go get Demarcus Robinson, but that just doesn't really inspire much confidence or upside. You want to get Jordan Whittington if you can. Get him on your team. Kendre Miller is next. Kendre Miller is one of the more interesting prospects to me right now because he had all of this just fade this offseason, which was reasonable, right? We didn't even know if he was going to make the team. But he did make the team. And he's better than Jamal Williams. I don't know. The Kendre Miller fade has gone a little bit too far for me. I'm not going to lie. Available in 94% of leagues. He's designated to return from IR in week 5. And he'll probably be the backup to Alvin Kamara. And with Alvin Kamara's age and injury history and usage, it's possible we see Kendre Miller RB1 season at some point this year. So if Kendre Miller's out there, you definitely need to get him. Since he's on IR, you don't need to bid up a lot, but I'm honestly shocked that Kendre Miller is as available as he is, not just in redraft, but in Dynasty as well. It's shocking to me. Really is. Do we really think Jamal Williams is the backup when Kendre Miller returns? I'm not so sure. Jamal Williams might get some touches, but Kendre Miller has the juice. They spent that draft capital on him. He has the athleticism. He looked good last season when he got the opportunity, but he's just been injured. But he'll be back. He'll be healthy. And I think if anything happens to Alvin Kamara again, knock on that wood, but Kendre Miller, he needs to be rostered. He's a handcuff. He's a handcuff plus probably. And I'm shocked he's as available as he is. Jalen McMillan, available in 95% of leagues. This is another player where you're never really going to know when to start him. And his usage has actually gone down every week because Chris Godwin and Mike Evans are just playing awesome. But if anything happens to either two of those, Jalen McMillan will get a ton of opportunity in this offense. So I just want to make sure I am rostering Jalen McMillan. Get him on your team. You don't have to bid up for him or anything like that. Just get him on your team. And this is the thing. So MV Props says Dennis Allen hates Kendre Miller. I think if he hated Kendre Miller, they would have released him. He said one bad thing this offseason. He just said it's hard to make the team from the training room. That's all he said. That's all he said. And he's right. It's hard to make the team from the training room if you're always hurt. But here's the deal. He made the team. So I don't know. I think we're overreacting to one offseason quote as it pertains to Kendre Miller. I've got to be honest with you guys. He needs to be rostered. So does Jalen McMillan. And so does Ray McCloud, I guess. This is a player that what I'm going to say about Ray McCloud is only pick him up if you're going to start him. So you know your league. If this is a league where it's deep, you need flex plays here and there, and for some reason no one's bitten the bullet and just taken Ray McCloud, do it. Do it. And throw him on your roster. Throw him on your roster. Get him on your team and start him. That is the only reason we're getting Ray McCloud. You do not get Ray McCloud to put him on your bench. That's not how you play fantasy football at all. Okay. But if you're in a really deep league and just everyone's like, I don't really want Ray McCloud. I'm in a lot of those. I'm in a lot of very deep leagues where Ray McCloud is like the top waiver wire ad, but no one really wants him. So just do it. Just bite the bullet. He's getting usage. Get Ray McCloud if you're in one of those deeper leagues and you need a starter. That's really the only way. You don't want him on your bench. There's not really much bench upside with him. Even with an injury, I think that they would just consolidate targets. But yeah, Ray McCloud in your deeper leagues, get him on your team if you want to start him. That's the only thing, right? Like, kind of the same with the next player, Josh Reynolds. He's available in a lot of leagues, and this is just another one. Like, they're just players that like kind of have this disdain or like weird taste in your mouth when you hear their name or say their name. And Josh Reynolds is one of them. It's gross, right? You don't really want to roster him. But there are some leagues where you could actually start Josh Reynolds, and in those leagues, you need to just go ahead and pick him up. You just need to go ahead and pick him up. This is another, like in my deeper leagues where Ray McCloud's available, so is Josh Reynolds. And I think in those deeper leagues, you just got to bite the bullet, pick up those players. Josh Reynolds, week 1, 8 targets, 5 receptions. Week 2, 5 targets, 4 receptions. This week, only 2 targets and 2 receptions. But hey, they were actually winning this game, playing from ahead the most time. And still, he had 36 yards, which was fine. Josh Reynolds, I think, needs to be rostered. He's the wide receiver 2 right now in Denver. I will say, as we get a little bit later in the show, a new wide receiver 2 is starting to appear, as mentioned multiple times this offseason. But still, Josh Reynolds, he's been productive throughout his NFL career, just throughout his entire NFL career. And so I think if you're in a deeper league where you could actually flex this player because like it's a deeper league, I think you should just bite the bullet and pick him up. Sometimes it's okay to have these gross names on your roster, a Justin Watson. You know what I mean? And they score points. Josh Reynolds, available in a lot of leagues that he probably shouldn't be. Just go ahead and pick him up. Start him too if you are. But don't throw a lot of fab. Next, we have Jaylen Tolbert, who, this is interesting. So he's also available in 96% of leagues, but like in a different way. He's rostered in all those deep leagues, right? Like Jaylen Tolbert is rostered in every single deep league because he's young. Whereas Josh Reynolds, Ray McCloud, they're dropped in these deeper leagues because they're old. But Jaylen Tolbert, he's available in shallower leagues, and it's looking like he needs to be rostered. 9 targets in week 2, brings in 6 of them for 82 yards. And this week, 5 targets, 3 receptions, 42 yards, and a touchdown. Really, really good usage from him, and it's going to trend up from here. We heard Dak Prescott singing his praises all offseason. It's looking like he's a better, like he needs to be rostered more so than Brandon Cooks at this point. Has a little bit more juice and athleticism than Cooks does at this point in his career. So Jaylen Tolbert, I would actually throw fab at. I'm honestly surprised he's as available as he is. Get him on your team, playing really well right now. Throw 15% at this guy, especially in your deeper leagues that he's available in. But even in your shallower leagues, I think he needs to be rostered. He looks more like the Cowboys wide receiver 2 than Brandon Cooks does, which is very concerning for Cooks. If you could get anything for Cooks right now, I just would, like a 3rd round pick. Just take it. Get him off your roster. Get that roster space. But Jaylen Tolbert, he needs to be rostered. Next is Tyrone Tracy, available in 97% of leagues. More so just a handcuff play. We're seeing this Giants offense kind of show some signs of life with Malik Neighbors kind of coming to form. So if anything happens to Devin Singletary, who's playing really well again, Tyrone Tracy should be pretty good. He just had 5 carries and 2 receptions. He's a wide receiver turned running back, so he has pass catching prowess, good size as well. Tyrone Tracy, he's a handcuff plus. And if anything happens to Devin Singletary, he should be fine. Should be fine, I guess. But yeah, so I want to roster him, especially in deeper leagues. Available in a lot. Don't think he should be. Go ahead and get Tyrone Tracy. Luke McCaffrey. This is another player kind of similar to Jaylen Tolbert, right? Where he's rostered in a lot of leagues because he's young. But he might need to be rostered in a bit more. This is a player that is trending towards being Jaden Daniels' favorite target. Okay? He has 3 targets in 2 games throughout this season, had 44 receiving yards last night. And Luke McCaffrey, we've talked about it a few times on the show. Him and Jaden Daniels have a little bit of a friendship. They were coming into practice all offseason 3 hours early. They were showing up at 5 a.m. to go over film together, to get some extra reps together. And I just think that that's going to translate to more targets and just comfortability on the football field. He's already earned the starting spot. He's kind of the wide receiver 2 on this offense already. And he's just, a McCaffrey. He's got really good athleticism. He impressed me a ton at the Senior Bowl. And I just think as he gets more acclimated to the NFL, both him and Jaden Daniels, really, his usage will only go up as well as his production. So Luke McCaffrey is someone I really do want to roster, especially in deeper leagues. But even in shallow leagues, if you have the bench space, I would roster this guy because I wouldn't be surprised if we start like towards the end of the season, start seeing like 6, 7, 8 target games for him as he becomes kind of Jaden Daniels' favorite target towards the end of the year. I like Luke McCaffrey a lot. So does Jaden Daniels. Get him on your team. Another handcuff out there that needs to be rostered is Isaac Guerendo. He just had 5 carries. Looked pretty good with them too. Jordan Mason getting all the opportunity, but that can't always last forever. And I think that Isaac Guerendo is going to start to get mixed in a bit more. Just he's got so much athleticism. 6 feet tall, 4.33, 40-yard dash. Just awesome athleticism. And Shanahan likes that. 5 carries this week. Wouldn't be surprised if we start to see 6, 7 carries pretty consistently. And if anything happens to Jordan Mason, he'll own the backfield while Christian McCaffrey is out. And we still don't know what the hell is going on with Christian McCaffrey. So you need to be rostering these 49ers backups, especially Isaac Guerendo with the athleticism he has. Get him on your team, especially if you have Jordan Mason. Roster this guy. Get Isaac Guerendo on your roster. Kamani Vidal as well. Again, he's been a healthy scratch the first few weeks of the season. Hasn't played yet, but you've just got to exercise patience. Just look yourself in the face. Do you really think J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards are going to be able to stay healthy? Sorry, terminal sarcasm. I saw your thing and I just had to do it. But do we really think J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards stay healthy this season? No, we don't. And Kamani Vidal led all running backs in rush yards last year at the college football level, over 1,600 rush yards. Never missed a game in college as well. The definition of durability, great size and speed combo. I think he'll be mega productive when he goes in. And I just think that they're holding him back so he's totally fresh when the inevitable happens. You've got to get Kamani Vidal on your teams, guys. In the deeper formats for sure. You can get him for nothing right now. Kamani Vidal needs to be rostered. You need to roster him. Kamani Vidal, get him. Just exercise patience. I know he's been a healthy scratch, but I think it's extenuating circumstances. He's not a special teams player. He's a bell cow running back. And so those players, they just sit on the practice squad, sit on healthy scratch for as long as possible. But once an injury falls his way, Kamani Vidal is going to be awesome. Get him on your team. I've got a couple more players, and then I'm going to get to the super chat and the rest of the questions in here. Roman Wilson should be returning next week. So if Roman Wilson's available on any of your leagues, roster him just in case. Van Jefferson just got hurt. We saw Calvin Austin have a pretty good game. Roman Wilson is hyper athletic. Like if you like Ladd McConkey, you'll like Roman Wilson. They literally have the same exact athletic profile, same size, same speed, both track stars. Roman Wilson, he's going to be awesome. In fact, at the Senior Bowl, where both Roman Wilson and Ladd McConkey were there, Roman Wilson was the standout. Roman Wilson was the best wide receiver at the Senior Bowl this year. The Steelers really did get a stud in him. So if you can get him, get him. I don't mind if you have to spend fab, but you don't have to. You should be able to get Roman Wilson pretty easily. He's available in 98% of leagues. And this is a player that could have like an Amon-Ra St. Brown type trajectory. He's amazing. He's a really, really good wide receiver. So if he's available, get him at all costs. Really, Roman Wilson needs to be rostered. Get him on your team. And hey, sell George Pickens while you can. And lastly, Troy Franklin. Troy Franklin just had 5 targets. Brought in 2 of them for 11 yards, so not much. And only 1 target in the 2 games first. Was a healthy scratch week 1. But what did we say all offseason? All offseason. If I'm getting a Broncos wide receiver, his name is going to be Troy Franklin. Available at the end of the drafts and has the connection with his quarterback. Troy Franklin and Bo Nix just played college together. Troy Franklin just had 1,000 yards receiving with him. Like they have an established connection. And Troy Franklin fits in this offense and just had an underwhelming combine, but his combine was still fine. He still has a really good athletic profile. My hot take this season for the Broncos was that Troy Franklin outperforms Marvin Mims, has more targets, has more receptions. We're trending that way. Marvin Mims only has 3 targets on the entire year. Troy Franklin just had 5. Josh Reynolds' usage just went down. Troy Franklin is getting more and more acclimated to this offense. Him and Bo Nix connection is going to be shown sooner rather than later. And it's just going to continue to build and build and build until they have an NFL connection together. But I loved the fact that the Broncos drafted Bo Nix's teammate to be with him. That helps Bo Nix be more comfortable. That helps Troy Franklin be more comfortable. And that connection that's already established is going to blossom at the NFL level. So spend some fab on Troy Franklin, available in 99% of leagues, and he just shouldn't be. That is all the ads I have for you guys. 33 players to add. Let's go ahead and hop into the questions. I see a super chat here, so we'll answer that one first. Thank you very much for the super chat, Demetrios. Start 3. DK Metcalf, Chris Godwin, Tyreek Hill, Rashee Rice. Probably DK Metcalf, Chris Godwin, Rashee Rice. It sucks to sit Tyreek Hill, but it's looking like, to answer another question of who's going to be starting for the Dolphins with Skylar Thompson out, it's looking like it'll be Tyler Huntley. And he's fine. You know, he's a Pro Bowler. But he doesn't throw a lot of passes. There's not a lot of volume. And Tyreek Hill is good with a lot, or with a little. He can be. But DK Metcalf is playing really well right now. Rashee Rice playing really well right now. Chris Godwin playing really, really well right now. They all have higher floors than Tyreek Hill does right now. They maybe don't have the Tyreek Hill ceiling, right? But they have the floor. You just go with those guys this week. Get them on your team. And it looks like you've thrown another start-sit super chat. So, hey, Gus Edwards, Cam Akers, Bucky Irving, David Montgomery, start 2. David Montgomery for sure. And then if Joe Mixon and Dameon Pierce are out again, Cam Akers. If not, Bucky Irving. And yeah, that's where I would go. Would you trade Dak Prescott for Bucky Irving in a single QB? No, I would hold on to Dak just in case. You have Jaden Daniels as their other quarterback, but remember, mobile quarterbacks are injury prone. It's nice to have that insurance. Who are my top 3 ads? I always try to think of making a top list, but it's just so hard. There are just so many different types of leagues out there that it's hard to say a definitive top 3. I mean, I'll say that Darnell Mooney is my priority ad. Like, if he's somehow available, you've got to get him. But then, I mean, like, more reasonably, right? Like, Jaylen Wright is really high up that list. Xavier Legette is high up the list. Demario Douglas is high up the list. Kendre Miller, Troy Franklin, Luke McCaffrey, Isaac Guerendo, Kamani Vidal, Roman Wilson. I don't know. I don't think that Bucky is taking White's job, but I do think that Bucky or that Rachaad White is still playing through a groin injury. And we just saw how bad he looked with it this week. I think you just got to start Bucky Irving. I mean, it was over like Cam Akers and Gus Bus, right? Like, it's not like those are great options, but no, I mean, Rachaad White obviously still has the pass catching work, and when he's healthy, we'll talk about it. Players I'm buying and selling. Tune in tomorrow. Tomorrow is our Market Watch episode. I will be giving my top buys and sells. I haven't had enough time to give enough thought on it. I mean, I'm buying Jameson Williams. I know that, but I don't know if he'll be in the episode. I think we've talked about him enough. But there's definitely always players we're buying and selling, and we will be there talking about it tomorrow. Let's see. Add Jonathan Brooks. Yes, if he is available, add him. I don't think you want to throw a lot of fab because I am starting to believe that Chuba Hubbard is going to do enough. Like, I think it'll be a bit more of a split. I did think at some point that Jonathan Brooks would come in and take it all, but I don't think they need to. I think that they can kind of work Jonathan Brooks back. I mean, toward the end of the year, he should be awesome, but I wouldn't throw a lot of fab at Jonathan Brooks. If he's available, get him, but it's still going to take some time. Add Odunze or Jennings, Rome Odunze. Should I trade Cooper Kupp for Devontae Adams and Travis Kelce? Wow. I mean, yes, I think. Yeah, I think so. I'm not sure what type of Cooper Kupp you're going to get when he returns from injury. Devontae Adams kind of being disappointing. Travis Kelce being disappointing, but I do think they'll turn it around. I don't know. That's a lot of value to get for an injured Cooper Kupp right now. I don't know. If you're winning right now, probably just hold on to Kupp. But if you're really starting to need some points, get Devontae Adams. Would you drop Quentin Johnston for Mooney? Maybe. I would think you might maybe have a better option out there, but I think I would rather have Mooney over Quentin Johnston, even with those touchdowns. CMC spending the week in Germany isn't good. Yes, this is true, guys. Christian McCaffrey flew to Germany to see an injury specialist. So he's going to get socialized medicine. I like that my camera shuts off on that. So definitely some concerns in the Christian McCaffrey department. I've got to be honest with you. Going to see any injury specialist, especially a European one, is never, ever what you want to hear. Hopefully he's okay, but it's looking like he's not. So get Isaac Guerendo, guys. Is Jameis Winston going to start for Cleveland soon? I definitely think at some point. Would you drop Carson Steele for Braylon Allen? And I have Jawan Jennings, who could I trade for? If you have Jawan Jennings, I would try to trade for a draft pick, any draft pick really. Otherwise, maybe like see if you could trade him for a Ricky Pearsall. Or I don't know. It's tough in redraft. It really is. But like a Darnell Mooney, maybe another player that I think is going to have a little bit more like season-long production. That's where I would go. Because I don't think he's going to have 175 yards and 3 touchdowns again. Darnell Mooney or Deontay Johnson rest of season. I guess Deontay Johnson, but it is a lot closer than I think people are willing to admit. Is the Strange run done? Probably not. Evan Ingram will return at some point, though. But this was always a concern, right? They spent pretty high draft capital on Brenton Strange. He's looked good in preseason and really anytime he's been asked to produce. So Brenton Strange is coming for that job sooner rather than later, but Evan Ingram still is the starter and will be when he returns. But it looks like Strange is a good streamer while Evan Ingram is out. And that, everyone, should do it. I don't see any more questions. So, I agree. I didn't mean to diss socialized healthcare. I just mean that it's not good. Like if a NFL player, someone with millions of dollars, has to go to Germany to get help, that's not good. Like that is not good news. The guy could get any healthcare professional in America he wants, and he isn't. That's a concern. Like that's what I mean. I love socialized healthcare here. I wish we had it. I turned 26 in less than a month. I have to get my own healthcare insurance, and I'm terrified. You know how expensive health insurance is? Privatized healthcare? It's ridiculous. But seeing an actual rich person, especially NFL All-Star Christian McCaffrey, having to go to Germany to get help, that's a concern, guys. Like that is a huge, major red flag. I would be terrified if I had Christian McCaffrey right now. Yeah, you're right. It is probably something not approved here because we can't approve anything here because it's all about the dollars. It's not about health. It's all about the dollars here in America. God, I can't. I've got to end the show before I start talking way too much about how much I hate our healthcare system. Man. Oh, Jesus. Anyway, before I go too far off the wagon, hey, vote in a couple months if you want some healthcare. But anyway, guys, thank you all so much for tuning in. This has been another fun episode of Wake and Take. We'll be back tomorrow with the Market Watch. If you're curious who my top buys and sells are, we'll be making some money moves. We'll also be having a guest on Friday, Maddie Keywoom, so make sure you get ready for that. And then, of course, Thursday, we'll just be having our little bit of a weekly preview. Everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. You all have a terrific Tuesday, a wonderful rest of your week, and I will see you tomorrow. Peace.
From the Podfather to you, I deeply appreciate you tuning in. And many ask, what can I do? What can I do to help support the hosts, the research they do, the production costs? Go to PlayerProfiler.com, Dynasty Deluxe, World Famous Draft Kit, Rankings, DFS Dominator, and of course, Data Analysis. Subscribe to any one of those, and you support all of us and take Player Profiler to the moon.